Hey everyone, it's Jack Ray here from Jazz Banjo Academy. I'm here with another lesson in our Banjo Basics series, where we answer some of the questions you might have when you first start learning the banjo. Today we're going to talk about how to tune the banjo, which is something we all need to do every day, probably several times a day. Banjos don't stay in tune very well, so here we go. Here's how to tune the banjo. So let's talk about the basic mechanics of tuning first. So we use our tuning pegs or machine heads to tune the string, right? So we're going to turn it away from us on the upper side of the headstock to raise the pitch, and if we turn it back in towards us, it'll lower the pitch. Same thing here, and back down. Now the reverse is true for the underside, right? So the underside of the headstock here, we're going to turn, I'm playing this D string here, we're going to play it, turn it in towards us, that's raising the pitch, and away from us will lower the pitch. So that's the basic mechanics of tuning, right? Now we need to decide a starting pitch or something that's definitely in tune to tune to, right? So the banjo constantly slips out of tune due to playing and changes in temperatures and a whole bunch of other things. So we need to be tuning probably multiple times a day if we're playing it, but definitely every time we pick up the instrument we want to make sure we're in tune. So now that we have the basic mechanics of tuning, probably the simplest way to tune, especially if you're just starting out, is to use a clip-on tuner like I have here. This is a poly-tune clip-on tuner. They work very simply. All you do is you clip it on to the headstock here. You can have it facing from the front here, or you can have it from the back if you like, either way. And then you'll just see, hopefully you can see this. We're going to play my C. See, it's pretty well in tune already, so we can just, it's a little bit flat because the red line is just behind the green note, and we'll just make small adjustments. And there you go, you can see it's in tune. So you can go along and do that for each string. So for this you have to know what tuning you're trying to get, right? So for me I use standard jazz tuning, which is like a viola. It's C, G, D, and A. That's for a tenor banjo. For an Irish banjo, you might have G, D, A, and E, which is like a violin rather than a viola. You also have plectrum tuning, so that would be for a plectrum banjo, which is the other 4-string banjo, besides tenor banjo, which would be C, G, B, and D. So besides a clip-on tuner, you can also download free apps, or there are websites. They just tend to be a little bit less accurate, and it's less practical to use in a live performance situation, right? Because you have to get out a phone or some sort of device there to help you with that. So it's much easier to just use a clip-on tuner if you ask me. The downside to them is it's not really training your ear to tune your instrument, right? So that's an important skill to have, because what if your battery dies, right? You don't want to be in a situation where you can't tune your own instrument, right? That's a very basic thing we want to be able to do. So for an absolute beginner, I recommend getting an electronic tuner of some sort, either an app or a clip-on tuner, because that'll just get you used to the sound of the instrument being in tune, right? Now if you're playing with a piano player, it's a very good idea to tune to the piano, right? Now keyboards, electronic keyboards, are going to stay set in pitch, so you can always tune to them. If you have one of those, again, you can get little apps that have MIDI sounds of keyboards on them. You can just play those notes, so you might want to tune to that. It's good practice for when you're in a live situation with a piano, because pianos go out of tune slowly over time. You know, ideally you want to get them tuned by a professional piano tuner every 6 months, but a piano player almost will never be able to tune their piano, right? So they're not going to be able to adjust, so the whole band will adjust to them, right? So that there aren't so huge discrepancies in tuning, because bass players, horn players, string players like us can all adjust their tuning fairly easily, whereas with piano tuning it's almost an art form in itself. So when you're tuning to the piano, you can ask for the notes that you want. So in my case I would ask for just a C, right, a G, a D, and an A individually, or I might get them to play that all as a chord, maybe even in an inversion. I like doing that sometimes. So in this case, you know, you can have like an A minor 11, get them to play that, and I'll tune each string to that. It's also, I find it warms up your ears that way as well. So if we just got a single note from the piano, say the note C, what we can do is we have two options here. We can either play the 7th fret on the string below, so in this case, if we're trying to tune the G string, we're playing the 7th fret on the C string, so the string below it, it's lower than it. Until we get in tune like that. Now what we're listening for, which you might not be able to hear on the recording because of the quality of the mic, is the long vibration of the sound. So you might hear when it's really out, it'll be quite fast, like da 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 da, and as you get closer, it'll go whoa, whoa, whoa. So as that gets, there's a little bit, well, there, right? Now we're in tune. The other option is to tune by octaves, right, like that. So we've got C and C that's on the 5th fret like that. We could use the harmonic. Okay, see that? So this is all for 5th space tuning, right? So we can use the 7th fret on the string below, or we can use the open string below, and we can tune to the string above with the 5th fret there. One thing I want you to note that's fairly important for tuning is it's a good idea to try and tune as often as possible to the same source, right? So if you're always tuning to an electronic tuner, continue to use the same electronic tuner. If you want to start using your ears to tune though, maybe just get one pitch. So just like imagine you've got a perfectly in tune piano there and it's going to give you the note C, so you're going to hit C perfectly in tune, and then you're going to try practicing tuning to your own instrument, right? So using the 7th fret or the 5th fret if you're playing in standard tuning. And then you can check it with the electronic tuner, right? So but really you're just trying to adjust it until it sounds right. That's how you'll know it's in tune when it sounds right to your ears. Thanks for watching. My name's Jack Ray from Jazz Banjo Academy. Please click subscribe to help us grow the channel, and we'll see you next time.